Welcome to the 20th edition of Open House by DDAG. I am Mugdha, your host for the evening. Today, we have brought you a very interesting topic. It's about a very interesting project that is Chamera Stage 1 HEP. And to discuss about this project, we have our very own Dr. Dhawan with us. He's the founder and chairman of DDAG and is quite well known to all of us. He'll be talking about the impact of geology on planning and construction of the Chamera Stage 1 project. Although he is quite known to all of us, let me give a brief introduction of him. Dr. Gopal Dhawan is a versatile engineering geologist who had been actively associated with investigation, planning, design, and construction of several hydropower and infrastructure projects in Indian subcontinent and in a career spanning over 40 years. He is the founder and director of Dr. Dhawan Academy of Geologists. He is superannuated as CMD MECL. Presently, he is member panel of experts with NTPC and working as senior consulting engineering geologist with SMEC, AFCONS, DMR Hydro Engineering and Infrastructure Limited, and Tunneling Association of India. After completing his MTech in Applied Geology from University of Roorkee in 1979, he joined NHPC as an executive trainee and rose to the level of executive director, Geotech and Project Investigations. During service, he continued to pursue his interest in academics and research. The ISM Dhanbad, that is now IIT, awarded him PhD on his research on correlation of rock quality parameters and support system in Himalayan tunnels. During his career at NHPC, he has been involved in several prestigious projects like Loktak, Salal, Chamera Stage 1, Uri Stage 1, all projects of Subansiri Basin in Arunachal Pradesh, and many more. So, with this shortest possible introduction of Dr. Dhawan, I now request him to take the stage and start with the discussion.
Thank you very much, Mugdha. The shortest was also quite long.
So, I tried my best, sir, to keep it as short as possible.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, friends. So once again, it is my turn to speak to you on a project from where I started my career. It is Chamera Stage 1. And I was posted there in two stints. One in 81 during investigations, and then during 85 and 86 during construction, initial stages of construction. So I will share my presentation. Give me a second for doing that. Yeah, so here is my presentation, and now I am in slide mode. So through this presentation, I would like to demonstrate how geology influences planning of layout of a hydro project in the initial stage, and then it continues to play a very important role even in construction. May I request that all should mute themselves? Well, so the timeline of the project goes something like this, that this was handed over to NHPC by Government of India in September 1980. Prior to that, this project was being done by the state government on a different alignment. After NHPC came into being, then a new alignment was chosen, which I will discuss with you. Investigations started soon after in April 81, and TC was obtained in April 82. So you can see that during 1 year, investigations were completed. As far as my memory goes, the DPR was submitted in 9 months, and then during the remaining 3 months, TEC was cleared by Central Water Commission and CWC. Construction started in 1985, and the project was commissioned in 9 years in 1994. During those days, it was a good time for completing a hydropower project. And funding was done by CIDA, Canadian International Development Agency, and EDC, European Development Commission. NHPC is the owner of the project, and our consultants were SNC and Acres from Canada. This is River Ravi. With a pointer, I will show you. This is Ravi coming from Chamba. It follows a curvaceous path, goes like that, and this finally comes to the confluence of Seva. This is Seva River, and then flows down towards the Theen Dam. Theen would be further downstream, and the reservoir of Theen comes somewhere near Simlu. So initially, when we took over this project, the alignment was on the left bank, and one of the alignment was this Chowra Chun alignment, and another alternative was Chowra Simlu alignment, because up to Simlu, the reservoir of Theen project was expected to come. Theen was also not constructed at that time, it was under construction. So we noted that at this bank, although geology is similar to the right bank, but it is on the convex part of the river, and there were so many nalas traversing the left bank, and therefore the length of HRT was much more than if we construct HRT on the right bank, because of accommodating a cover on these nalas. So then you can say after 3-4 months, when we had already started investigation and drilling was already going on at dam site was at Chowra, our seniors thought of studying an alignment on the right bank also. So this right bank alignment was studied. The problem was that we did not have any good topographical map at that time. So Survey of India was pressed into service, and we got a map on 1:10,000. I, as a young geologist, was given this responsibility of giving the geological map of the area. I traversed this entire hill in 18 days and came out with some preliminary geology. I had no experience of doing a geological mapping for a headless tunnel, but due to my academic background, as I had done geological mapping for Kotli Bahar Dam during my MTech. So I did whatever I could, and based on that, DPR chapters were written. Initially, we were thinking of having the tail race outfall somewhere near the confluence, but for harnessing the total head which was left over by Theen, it was considered to cross River Ravi by a tail race tunnel, and then this tail race outfall was at Simlu. So this is our final alignment, which you can see that the final layout finally was something like this: 121 meter high concrete dam at Chowra, 6.4 kilometer long power tunnel or headrest tunnel in the right hill, an underground powerhouse at Kheri, 2.4 kilometer long tail race tunnel outfalling near Simla. And this is the layout of the project: dam at Chowra, HRT on the right bank, edit number 1, edit number 2, edit number 3. This edit number 3 is falling in between because this was a later decision, it was not initially planned like that. Due to certain construction problems, later on it was decided to have another edit here. So this is number 3, and this is our powerhouse, underground powerhouse. The tail race is emerging. If you can follow my laser pointer, it goes like this and finally comes out at Simla. The maximum cover in the central portion of Headless Tunnel was about 700 to 800 meters. Geologically, we were having rocks of Jotok, Dhundiara, Panjal volcanics, and Murray formations. These formations were separated by three major thrusts, namely Jotok, Shali, and Murray. Jotok marks the contact between Jotok formation and Dhundiara formation. This thrust is located just upstream of dam, associated with a very thick band of carbonaceous phyllite, about 500 meters or so, dipping steeply towards the upstream side. So this was a saving grace that the thrust, although it was a thick zone, but it was dipping into the reservoir away from the dam seat. And our dam was unaffected from the negative effects of this thrust. The second thrust was Shali, which separates Dhundiara and Panjal. And then finally, these Panjal volcanics are thrusted over the Murray formation, which is exposed near the tail race outflow. The Jotok is completely in the reservoir area. And the intra-thrust zone, particularly the thrust zone between Jotok and Shali, are subjected to very intense folding. And this HRT has negotiated complete sequence of Dhundiaras. For a simplification, I have tried to prepare a table so that you can understand that which project is falling under which formation and what type of rocks were negotiated. Dam is in phyllite of Dhundiara. Headless tunnel in phyllites, calcareous phyllites, carbonaceous phyllites, and limestones, once again of Dhundiara. Surfshaft in basic volcanics and orthochlorite. Actually, near the Shali thrust, at the base of the Shali, we had a zone of quartzite, and it was faulted in steps. So it was a difficult area geologically, but somehow a safe location of Surfshaft could be found out after detailed geological mapping. Entire powerhouse is in volcanics of Panjal and a few bands of quartzites. Then the tail race tunnel initially, when it crosses Ravi, this is in volcanics, and then near the tail race outfall, this we have negotiated shales and sandstone of Murray formation. So this is a valuable picture before construction of the dam. And you see a bridge here. The name of this bridge was Chowda Bridge. It was connecting the Barasool project from, if you come from Banikhet. So it was a motorable bridge. And this bridge was destined to become a huge dam. And the axis of our dam was just downstream of this bridge. And this picture was taken by me from the left bank. And you can see the initial excavation of the divergental intake is also visible. This black spot where I am trying to indicate my laser pointer. So this excavation finally was converted into a tunnel inlet portal of divergent tunnel. Initially, we had some problems of slope stability, but these were because there was a back slope of about 25 or 30 meters. And those were the days where application of rockboard was not understood properly by us, and we were doing experiments with new types of support elements. So in that process, there was a minor fall, and then it was re-excavated, and the slope was stabilized. So this is this magnificent dam, a concrete dam from downstream view. It's a beautiful dam when you really visit, and if you have not seen till now, I would suggest that everybody who is associated with development of infrastructure projects, particularly hydropower projects, must see this dam. So you can see the spillways, and you will also see the undersluices, 4 undersluices somewhere near the bottom. The abutments are both sides of phyllite. There was a slide on the right hand side, just immediately downstream of the dam, but it was controlled nicely. This is the HRT area, which is very dear to me, because I camped here for about 4 months. Initially, during investigations, as I said, that I traversed this area in 18 days, and whatever knowledge I had at that point of time, I tried to struggle with these outcrops and map them on that Survey of India topo sheet. But finally, when I knew that just before construction, I was posted again, and I knew that what are the updations which are required in my mapping. And then our Canadian consultants wanted us to map the area so that we can collect data for rock mass classification. So me, my colleagues, Mr. N.K. Mathur and Mr. R.P. Verma, 3 of us camped somewhere on this hilltop for about 4 months. I think we changed camps 3-4 times, and you will see a road cut following this cursor. This was at around 900 meters elevation. Our tunnel HRT is around plus minus 700 meters. So this acted as a master traverse for this geological mapping. We picked up all the outcrops available in this road. It was in the initial stages of construction, not metalled. So, but one advantage was that outcrops were available in plenty and they were fresh. We also utilized opportunity of traversing all these gullies or small nalas. Particularly, there was a nala which is known as Loha Deda Nala. This is a very big tributary to Ravi. This also provided a wealth of information as far as geology is concerned. Then we also had a traverse all along the river on the right side. But the problem was that due to curves in the river, it was not a through traverse. We had to go to the other side of the river using all kinds of possible alternatives, sometimes crossing the river during winters on foot, or many times we crossed river by ropeways. And it was a very treacherous process, but somehow the desire for preparing a geological map was so intense that we did whatever was there at our command. And every outcrop was measured on these kind of proformas, developed for the first time because we had no experience, and there were Canadian inputs for designing this proforma. You will see that the outcrop has been numbered. Then you will see that for each joint we took reading, whatever joints were available on each outcrop. I mean, no joint was left. Blindly reading for each joint was taken, and started with dip and strike, then length of a joint, type of termination, spacing, aperture, roughness, alteration, filling, and then giving set number. After initial traverse of that master traverse, we plotted the entire data on a stereo net. And then finally tried to have an idea about the prominent joint sets. Then we had given these numbers of F1, F2 or S1, S2 or random joint sets. And then the second part of this table is the mass description, wherein we start with the rock strength, type of the rock, water inflow, degree of weathering, structural position, and block description. So these are the basic inputs which were required for rock mass classification. That was our objective. So therefore, we designed the proforma which was able to cater to RMR classification system. Q system was not in vogue at that time in India, although it was already there, but we had not understood the application of Q system at that point of time. So we banked totally on the RMR. And this was the final output of our mapping campaign. You can see the HRT alignment. This was the final alignment on which headrest tunnel has been constructed. And these are the geological formation. Basically, Jotok thrust, which is going towards the reservoir, upstream of dam. This is the dam location. And then sympathetic to the Jotok thrust, you will see that there's an intra-thrust zone. This created a lot of problems, which I will take up separately, that it was a 400-meter thick zone of carbonaceous phyllite. And it was depicted in our initial mapping. It was expected that it will come. And only therefore, we later on went for a third edit also. Here you will, and these are all limestone bands within Dhundiaras. These were the, you can say, marker kind of horizons, and intermittently there are various kinds of phyllites. Then there's Shally thrust. This is the base of Shally thrust, overlain by orthoquartzites and a lot of carbonaceous phyllite zones, crushed carbonaceous phyllite zones, and then these are the volcanics in which the powerhouse is situated. These are the three sections, one along the tunnel, and because the tunnel alignment is following almost the plunge direction or the axial planes of these folds, so the folding is not very clear. For understanding structure of this area, I prepared a model on the transparent sheets and prepared a 3D model by hanging each sheet in a framework of a you can say cube. Unfortunately, I have not retained photograph of that, but through these transparent sections, I was able to understand that how these folded limbs are affecting our tunnel, and where we will expect what kind of lithology. At least that much was clear. And then the other sections are across the fold axis. So therefore, you can see the sink line and the antique line, which is following a Nala axis. So then we culminated all our observations into this flow sheet, which explains that how we proceeded with data. Whatever data was acquisitioned, it helped us in defining the geostructural zonation. I think this term was coined by us for the first time. It was to differentiate that within a lithological unit, there may be more than one geostructural unit. Maybe lithology may be one, say phyllite, but within phyllite, if the dips are changing, it is on the other limb of the fold, the geostructural unit changes. If the other geotechnical parameters, spacing or aperture or filling is changing, so there will be different geostructural unit. So after defining a geostructural unit, we prepared data sheet for each GSU, geostructural unit, and divided it into this discontinuity data and the rock mass data and the the general parameters were computed separately. In nutshell, the central portion leads to the rock mass classification. The left hand side is done for the structural instability problems, the wedge analysis. And the right hand side column gives you parameters for the strength and stress failure assessment. Once you do all these analysis separately, you will arrive at various kinds of support systems, which these systems will guide you. And later on, you can club all the three results and come out with a optimum support design. During construction, each phase was logged as it is done normally by all the geologists. So here also we did the same thing. But after doing this, we did a very rigorous structural analysis, the stability analysis, in case the wedges are to be formed. So one technique is proposed by a Chinese Shi, and there was a book written by Goodman and Shi, which I had an opportunity to study during my PhD at ISM. And we analyzed this data by using key blocks theory. And me and Mr. Deva both had been studying this concurrently, and we had a lot of discussions that how this can be used. It was really a very useful thing, and it had an edge over the normal wedge analysis, where you can estimate the existence of a block in various geometries of the tunnel excavation. You can see that one block is in the invert also, which we normally don't consider, but theoretically it can form. And in case there is any kind of upheaval or stress-induced failure, so this block can also pop up, and it will also require support. But because it was a time-consuming exercise, so we had normally attempted this wedge analysis using StereoNet, where in this case you will see that a wedge is forming in the crown portion, and after this assessment where it is appearing, you can also estimate the size of a block and volume of a block, and how many rock bolts would be required to support this block. And simultaneously we do it by using the RMR system also, and then try to optimize it. After this slide, I will invite you to raise any question in case you so desire, or otherwise I will proceed further. So here you will see that particularly the carbonaceous phyllite zones gave us a lot of trouble, and there were convergence in the rock mass. In this particular section, you will see that the rib is deformed like this due to intense convergence. These convergence measurements were taken, which you will see in this graph. Here we have plotted data from 4 stations, and there had been substantial convergence. So this is the problem which occurred at phase 3. As I told you that there was a zone of about 400-meter thick carbonaceous phyllite. Entire zone was remined to accommodate. These deformed ribs were removed, and whatever deformations were there, they were accommodated nicely, and new ribs were placed. Here you can see I was around 32 years old at that time, taking deformation readings using a tape extensometers. We were not that lucky during those days to have these modern techniques of convergence measurement by laser techniques. And it was a very strenuous exercise. If you have to take convergence in one section, it used to require about 1 hour or so. And well, now you can ask questions in case there is any question. Any question, Mugdha, in the chat box?
No, sir. So far, there are not any questions. But if anybody wants to ask, they may raise their hand. Okay, I think we can take the questions in the end.
Okay, okay. So I proceed further. I request everybody to, because there will be some paucity of time during end of the session, because I'm going to take around 20 minutes more. There are so many interesting things to be shared with you. You may, whatever questions are there, please write it down in the chat box. In case I don't have time, I will respond to you on WhatsApp or email subsequently. So you see two rock boards, not a great picture to be shown, but for us in early 80s, it was a new technology which we got because of international cooperation. As I told you that our consultants were Canadians, and at that point of time, we saw all modern equipments like drilling jumbos, rock bolting jumbos, low profile dumpers, new type of shotcrete machines. I think Elimec was the name of those shotcrete machines. And there was complete change in the support philosophy. Incidentally, before this project was taken up for construction, I was already having experience of 3 tunnels. I had worked for Salal, I had worked for Loktak, I had also worked as an independent geologist for Devi Ghat project in Nepal, where there were 2 tunnels of small tunnels. One was about 700 meters long and another was 800 meters long. So we had used all primitive type of equipment like mounting jackhammers on tippers and then doing face drilling, and all the time we were putting ribs, and many times these ribs were used as a psychological support. Even the rock was good, so we were putting ribs, and in case rock was really good, only then the section was left unsupported. But we were not very lucky to have good rock mass in most of the cases. Although in Loktak we had used this alpine miners, which was certainly a modern kind of excavation technique, but it was used because Loktak had so many other kinds of problems, particularly the squeezing rock mass, and because of some other kind of problem later on, that was also withdrawn. So Chamera provided us an opportunity to peep into the modern techniques of rock excavation and rock support both. So therefore I remember these 2 boards, and we were so skeptical about these boards that in case it is not installed properly, we will direct our field teams to re-drill the board, to re-drill the hole, and reinstall the rock bolt in case it is not as per the specifications. So as I told you that we had problems with carbonaceous phyllites in entire length of this problem. First problem was at phase 3, where 400 meter thick problem was there, and then because of these carbonaceous phyllite, thick zones of carbonaceous phyllite, it also influenced the layout of the construction edits also. Then we had problem at phase 4. We had also problem at Baghi Nala. So with this section, I will explain you so that the communication is proper. This is the section, because I showed you a section which was done before, and now this is the section which was done after construction. So this is the as-built section. You can see, depending upon on the logs, which 3D logs which were done during construction. So once again, you will see that this all blue rocks are dhundiaras, the greens are limestone, and this is the area of phase 3 where we had problem. Then we had problem downstream of edit 3. This area also we had problems in phyllites. Then we had problems below the Baghi Nala, because Baggi Nala was very close to this Shali thrust. This also gave us a lot of problems, and we had some problems in the phase 4 side also. This is phase 4 in this direction. So here also we had problem. Although there were loose falls or cavities everywhere, but these were the areas where we negotiated with some of the worst cavities of the area. Then taking advantage of this section, I will also explain you something beyond the HRT. This is Shali thrust, and then just downstream we had our surge shaft. As I told you, it was very close, but luckily we found a good location for placing the surge shaft. And then we had a thick shear zone. I think it was around 270 meter thick shear zone. And then this is river Ravi, and under which this TRT is going. So TRT was constructed about 40 meters below the Ravi River. This was also investigated in detail with a backup of drilling, geological mapping, and seismic surveys. NHPC had capabilities of doing seismic investigations in the flowing water, even during early 80s, you can say. And then this TRT, it outfalls that after the Murray thrust. So coming to powerhouse.
Excuse me, sir. Mr. Deva has something to ask, I guess. He wants to interrupt.
Okay, please, Deva sir, go ahead.
Deva sir, can we see the previous slide?
Yes, sir.
It was interesting to see. You have shown this, the oldest formation is flight with interpreted limestone in the Dhundiara formation, where you have shown these, I mean, you just told the green beds are the limestone beds.
Ji.
So it is interesting to see that you are showing some discontinued limestone beds in the subsurface.
Ji.
I was just wondering that how these limestone beds are interpreted. This is schematic suggestive, or there is some basis behind this?
Ji. Very good question, Deva sir. Actually, this question, I struggled with this section for so many days while making. You see, the basis is that we got it in the you can say 3D logs in the tunnel excavation. And in the surface also we have noted that these are pinching and swelling bands. And some of these you can say impressions of these limestones are carried from the surface mapping, which did not appear because of folding, and we are not sure that because these were not intercepted in the tunnel, but the mapping suggested, surface mapping suggested that there should be some limestone. So we have not taken them down up to the tunnel grade, because in tunnel we did not find. So I mean, this is the uncertainty, and this is how we should explain to people that everything which we see during our surface mapping is not, because in Himalayas everything changes, the dips are changing, the thickness of these beds are changing, and then at some times due to structural dispositions also they may be obliterated. So I mean, this is how it is. So this is a mix of mapping and the tunnel logging.
So I think this is in fact a good way of showing it. It is indicative, yet it is based on geological mapping. The projections are from the surface outcrops, basically. And shows that this is a pinching and swelling behavior of the limestone bed. Anyway, it's satisfying.
Actually, one thing which I skipped because of paucity of time is that as we prepare a geological section, I developed a plan, at the tunnel grade, which was at 700 meters, with the help of that 3D model. So it was as if you have chopped the hill at the tunnel grade and then see what geology is there around the tunnel in a plan. So because nowadays we are lucky that we have many kind of softwares which can help you in doing that. During those days, we were not lucky to have all that. So to understand the geological structure, all that jugglery, my master, my senior, Mr. Bandyopadhyay, used to tell me that Dhawan, you are doing all kinds of gymnastics of plotting. So this is a result of gymnastics of plotting.
Can we see this limestone bed in the geological map also?
Yes, you can. Just a minute. These are the impressions of these limestone beds. Because while we did mapping, we had 3 traverses, one along the river as I told you, one at around 900 meters, and then some nalas intermittently. So we had joined all these limestone outcrops which were occurring in the strike continuity. And these were intensely folded. And these folds are plunging towards upstream.
Okay, I can see 2 limestone beds here.
Yes.
2 or 3 we can see, in fact.
Yes.
3 shears, 3, 4 shears.
This band, which is in a round shape, it is a, you can say, product of the structural disposition of limestone, which is plunging, and due to the intervention of topography, because this side where my cursor is there, it is a steeply dipping face. So this appeared. This was a closed outcrop like that, or a series of outcrop which were picked up.
Mm-hmm.
So and this was because of, if you see in the section, this is closing much above the tunnel grade. This is here. So this was not to appear, but 2 bends were expected to appear in the tunnel grade. Out of that, only 1 appeared. The other went missing. Okay, thank you. Right. Okay, sir. So you have taken 5 minutes extra. So you will have to give me 5 minutes extra. Anyway, I'll try to hurry up. So now you see, because powerhouse complex is a very complex area, and that's what I want to share with you all. That it is not a single cavern. It is the powerhouse is a very complex engineering structure, and geology has to be understood in the same way. So what is happening is, it's a Google Earth on which you will see these layout of powerhouse. The blue caverns are the machine hall and the transformer cavern. This is our main access tunnel, which is coming from Seva river side. I'm sorry, I didn't explain you the river system. This is Ravi. Ravi goes like this. Then this is Seva. And this is the confluence. So this entire powerhouse complex is situated in between these 2 rivers. So main access tunnel is coming from Seva side, and this pink tunnel is the tail race tunnel. Tail race tunnel going to Simlu here, and rest all are other ancillary structures which are around the powerhouse, like switchyard, surge shaft. And other interesting thing here is, if you follow my cursor, is the Ravi drift. This is Ravi drift. It was done during investigation and further extended up to the end of the machine hall during construction. This Ravi drift has negotiated a very thick shear zone, and although it was 1.8 by 2.1 meter section drift, but in this area the squeezing was so much कि हम लोग इसमें से रेंग के जाते थे ड्यूरिंग क्राउलिंग करके जाते थे ड्यूरिंग लॉगिंग एंड जब आगे के एरिया की लॉगिंग की जा रही थी. And this is Ravi drift. It started from here, but it provided valuable data for siting the powerhouse. Because of this information, powerhouse complex was shifted towards hill by about 150 meters or so. And then this drift was used for instrumentation. The geology had a lot of influence on the layout, on excavation, and as far as excavation is concerned, it was done in 8 stages. Although the picture is not clear, but I will draw outlines of this powerhouse like this. This is heading, which is done in 4 stages. This is the central gullet of 6 meter wide and 7.5 meter high, and then slashing in stages 2A, 2B, then 3, and then 4A, 4B, and then benching is done in 5, 6, 7, and 8 stage like this. So what happened with this? During initial stage, after all whatever investigation data through Ravi drift was collected and geological mapping was done, and a lot of drill holes were put in. From drift also drill holes were done towards the cavern. We had suggested primary support of about 6 meter long bolts, 25 mm diameter bolts, and at about 1.5 meter square grid. Secondary supports were 10.5 meter long and at 3 meter interval with 200 meter thick shotcrete, and walls had 3 meter long bolts with 25 mm dia. So, but what happened? You see, this is the powerhouse complex, and here in this 3D model, you will appreciate that we have the main machine hall, which was 112 meter long, 24 meter span, and 32 meter height. And the machine hall, a smaller cavern, 114 meter, length is almost equal, 17 meter depth, 17 meter span and 14 meter depth. And then we have bus ducts, we have penstocks, we have draft tubes. So there's a network of various kinds of underground openings, and all these openings influence each other intensively, and that's what happened here. These penstocks are about 15.5 meter. There was a rock pillars of 15 meters. In the bus ducts, 16 meters rock pillars, and in the draft tubes about 13 meters rock pillars were removed. So, and this excavation, you will see that these dark areas, it was being done concurrently in the powerhouse, in the transformer cavern, and in the draft tubes. In September 88, a small cavity appeared here in the draft tube roof, and it was done through a pilot tunnel. Just after completion of that, this cavity appeared. In October, the cavity further extended towards the machine hall, towards the transformer cavern. It involved a part of this tailless search shaft also. And now please note that while this cavity was developing, our excavation in powerhouse, machine hall, and transformer cavern, they were going on. And as a result, it further extended. At that stage, we started grouting from the transformer cavern, and some grouting was done from the draft tube also. And here, in the meanwhile, heading of this powerhouse cavern was completed. After that, some cracks in the downstream wall of powerhouse also appeared as we went down and down. So it became a very difficult situation to handle. At that point, this was stopped and the treatment was completed. And then after complete treatment, through multiple drifting, the area was excavated again. And here this Ravi drift, which was done during investigations, came very handy. This was used for instrumentation. The height, the drift was located around 30 meter above the crown of the powerhouse cavern. So before starting excavation in the main powerhouse cavern or the machine hall, there we had installed this MPBX. MPBX were installed, tape convergence measurements were done. These green dots are indicative of those tape extensometer locations, and then load cells were used and strain gauges were used. So the cavern was very intensively instrumented to study that what is happening. Because of these cracks in the machine hall, we reviewed the design again, and we found that after finite element analysis, we found that there is a overstressed zone of about 8 meter deep in the downstream wall where the cracks had appeared, and we had to support the cavern with higher requirement of support pressure. Initially, it was taken at 80 kPa. So now the requirement was 250 kPa. For achieving that, you will remember that I told you that in wall, we had planned for 6 meter long 25 mm dia rock bolts, and now these were changed to 10 or 12 meter and 36 mm. So dia was also increased. So with this, the entire excavated area was strengthened, and then excavation started again. Now coming to tail race. In brief, tail race had 3 difficult areas to negotiate. One was that shear zone, which we had negotiated in the Ravi drift also, but geotechnical properties of this shear zone was very correctly known because it was logged in the Ravi drift, mapped very carefully. So this 270 meter thick shear zone gave us problems, but we could sail through. And although overbreaks were there in this reach, but nothing unusual happened. Second difficult area was the riverbed. Riverbed was also investigated much beforehand through drill holes and through seismic surveys. The good news was after these investigations that we do not have much of overburden in the river section, and good volcanic rocks were expected. And these were really good, about class 3 or class 2 rock. Although these were to be supported by rock bolts alone, but because it was a river crossing, so ribs were also provided after providing 3.7 meter long resin grouted rock bolts with shotcrete. So ribs were also provided. The third challenge was in the tail race tunnel was it negotiated a multi-stage riverine terrace. There was no outcrop above that, but at the tunnel grade, through drilling, we had established that we will get rock. And luckily, results of investigations came very handy, and it was we got what we expected. And but rocks were very closely jointed and fractured, and tunneling through the Simlu terrace also crossed the Murray thrust, but it did not pose much of problem. You can say because we were prepared for that. So thank you very much. I am not giving you any conclusion, leaving to you. I have just shown you or demonstrated you a piece of history which I experienced through my own eyes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. That was quite a detailed and elaborate presentation. Now the forum is open for questions. So if anybody has any question, they may raise their hand and ask. We are in a position to take about a couple of questions. Otherwise, you can post them in the chat box also. Okay, Mr. Rajesh Sharma has raised his hand. So please ask the question.
Good evening, sir. This is I don't have any questions, but sir, I am an ex-NHPC and presently with NTPC. So I started my career with Chamera, and I was very lucky that I could traverse the whole tunnel and all the structures we could see, because the tunnel was emptied during my tenure in 98-99 when there was some issue in the powerhouse and we had to deplete that what we call dam also, sir. And I am lucky to have attended this session so that I got few more insights into the history of the project. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rajesh. Very happy to meet you here. God bless you. And you may update in case I have missed anything, because I have missed the construction of the project when I was posted to Dholinga project intermittently because of the administrative requirements. So you can share your inputs in case you wish to.
Actually, sir, there was a problem with the falling of some portion of ground near the edit 1 or edit 2, which resulted into the blockage of the MIB.
Yes, yes.
Most probably.
Yes.
In March, that resulted into the flooding of the powerhouse and non-closing of the what you call MIB.
Yes.
And so we had to deplete the full tunnel, and then we had to carry out the inspection of the full HRT from subjedit to dam. I and Mr. Thakur sir, O.P. Thakur sir, and
Okay.
one of our colleagues sir, we went to the tunnel from the subjedit towards the dam side, sir.
Okay.
And in between, sir, that was most probably constructed by HCC, and there was a complete slid inside that. One occasion we were knee deep, more than waist deep into the water, sir. It was so cold, 4 degrees, 5 degrees temperature, sir. And we were not, we didn't know what to do and what not. Then later on we realized that gantry had slid into this portion, and it was a construction issue only, nothing else. And secondly, sir, I was also involved in the repair of the sluice gates, basically areas. We did the epoxy treatment of the sluices, sir, under sluices of the dams.
Very good, very good. So,
and so one more issue happened. The highway tunnel collapsed during my tenure, sir. And
I have logged entire this highway tunnel, and in fact, this wet analysis which I have presented here, it is for highway tunnel only.
Yes, sir.
Because highway tunnel was done it was done in the initial stages, much before even completion of diversion tunnel. So this entire DT and highway tunnels, these were logged during my presence, and Ashok Chadha was my colleague at that time for doing these two things.
Alvi Saab was the geologist during my tenure, and I was lucky to monitor the geological instruments in the powerhouse, sir.
I think Punetha was very deeply involved in instrumentation.
Punetha sir was from HO, sir. Alvi was at the site, sir.
Okay. Very good.
Thank you very much, sir. Thanks for your blessing, sir.
Thank you, Rajesh. Keep on coming to this forum. Sometimes if you want to share your experiences, we will welcome you. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
We have Mr. Ashok Kumar. He wants to say something. Mr. Ashok.
Hello.
Yes,
please go ahead, sir. Yes, sir, you are.
Hello, Dhawan sahab. Namaskar.
Ashok ji, namaskar.
I just wanted to know one thing.
Ji.
That as far as tunneling is concerned, in that the rock classes must have been defined.
Ji.
That means they must have been predicted.
Ji.
And during construction, what was any difference was there, whether they were correlated, how much correlation was there? I mean, 60%, 70, 80 or 90%, whatever is there. So that means what was the correlation between the predicted and the observed rock mass classes? That is what I wanted to just know.
Actually, Ashok, as I told you that we had mapped this tunnel with a view to provide rock mass classification to our designers. And we had done it with a new thinking of, subdividing even a litho unit into sub units, which I called geostructural units. And during construction also we tried to correlate. And as I had shown a section which was prepared based on the actually you can say encountered geology, which is the as-built section. So I have found two things. One, that there was variation even in the lithology which was predicted earlier, as I have shown you about the limestone. The only thing was that the thrust zones which we had predicted came very close to the area of predictions, and we could get an idea about the zones of carbonaceous phyllite. They were there, but within that there was a lot of variation, and we had one more problem, which was a practical problem, that all when we did it from surface, our rock class was the rock class of the RMR system. But,
Yes.
but when we were logging, our rock class was guided by the support, the support class. So although I struggled with it, but later on I left it because these were two different things. So I thought it will be not comparable. But to satisfy my own, you can say, appetite for finding something, कि अगर हम correlate नहीं कर सकते तो mapping का फायदा क्या है? तो ये जो हाईवे टनल की अभी बात हुई है, ये ऑल्दो ये हाईवे टनल बहुत छोटी थी, सिर्फ 300 मीटर की थी, मगर ये एक तो सिंगल लिथो यूनिट में थी, और दूसरी बात ये थी कि ये मैप एरिया की सरफेस से बहुत क्लोज डिस्टेंस पे थी. सो दिस वाज कंपेयर्ड बाय मी very carefully, and there is a paper which is written only on this problem. I will send you, share with you.
Okay.
We found a good correlation. It is published in some international. It is published in IAEG itself.
Okay.
This is published in maybe 92 or 90. Yes. 1990 IAEG. It is published there. I will send you a scanned copy of this. So there was a good correlation in the predicted rock classes and this.
In the highway tunnel.
Even in the pattern of failure, there was this structural instability failure. There was some correlation.
But in the HRT, I mean, they were not comparable because the observed.
No, good comparison was not there, and the basic issue was we could not compare it because of
different methods used for
classification, because contractually we were to see that what is the support class, because suppose the rock class is class 3, but we are providing class 4 support. So the log is mentioning class 4 support.
Okay.
So we could not do. In later project, we developed a method of doing this correlation also. We started providing 2 columns, one rock class and other support class.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Arindam Chakravarti also wants to say something.
Sir, good afternoon. Arindam here.
Jay Arindam, good
Hello.
afternoon.
Sir, just my question is that, sir, TRT in this project, it was constructed below the, it crossed the Ravi River, what you have shown in the layout. So, sir, what was the, during, after investigation, what were the preparedness considering the occurrence of, predicted occurrence of water during construction, during excavation? Is there any special provisions were kept at that time? Because it was so much ahead. Even then, nowadays, we generally do not venture crossing the tunnels beneath the river. So at that time, that was such an ambitious layout was there. What were the preparedness for to encounter any ingress of water, to tackle any ingress of water? So that was my question.
Very good question, Arindam. You see, we are talking of a river. Normally, we do not cross a nala very safely, small nala. And in case
Obviously.
someone is nearby, so immediately we put that allegation on that nala, bhai nala bahut paas se ja raha hai, ye usse pani aa gaya, kuch ho gaya. नाला ड्राई भी होगा तो उस गरीब को दोष देना शुरू करते हैं. तो यहाँ पे तो एक पूरी रिवर एंड रावी रिवर, ए माइटी रिवर was to be crossed. You see, the first was investigation. So through investigation, we satisfied ourselves that we will be in rock. Number two, it will be volcanics and good volcanics. Compared to the rock strata which was available elsewhere, this was better volcanics of class 3 and class 2. Then you can see, in addition to the support, whatever supports were chosen based on the rock class, one thing was done was that a probe hole much ahead of the tunnel face. I think 15-meter long hole was always driven to see whether there is any seepage through that hole or not, so that we are prepared with good amount of grouting to be done. But luckily, this the area underneath the river section was about 120 meter wide. This was completely dry. Nothing happened, although pilot holes were being done progressively after each interval.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. I now request Mr. Yogendra Deva to give his closing comments.
Ma'am, I want to say something, ma'am. There is no chat box. There is no chat box, and we cannot switch on our camera. Is there a problem from your end, ma'am, or is it our end?
No. If you want to say something, if you want to ask a question, you can go ahead, please. We can always hear you.
No, ma'am, that is okay. But there should be a chat box. You have disabled the chat box or something?
No, it isn't. For some of the participants, it is not accessible. There is some glitch with the MS Teams. It's not at our end.
And then camera?
Camera, that glitch must be at your end only, because we don't have control over it. Okay, thank you.
In fact, we don't have those restrictions, so the glitches must be at your end. So, anyway, so thank you, Dhawan Saab. Thank you, Dhawan Saab. Actually, I am a very firm believer in case studies. They are interesting, and they give you lots of information about all aspects of project planning and execution. So today's session has been no different that way. I mean, it is really a very interesting thing, and early on in your career, you have done such a wonderful job in geological mapping, geological assessment, and all kinds of investigations and explorations. So I think my personal suggestion would be to continue with this kind of sessions in open house, and today, as we have been talking, and instead of a formal registration, we can have it as a link, as a link. We can give the links, and then 24 hours before we can give a reminder that so many hours to go for the program, something like that. And I'm very sure that our audience number will increase with this change in format. So, I mean, and we can invite all the participants and others if they have something to share on this platform, some interesting case study which enlightens us on some particular aspect. So that will be most welcome, and we should invite them for that. So thank you once again, Dr. Dhawan. It is always a pleasure hearing your presentations, and today we have really enjoyed it. I mean, even I enjoyed it a lot. So thank you very much once again, and thank you, Mugdha, for giving me these moments. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Deva sir, for your suggestions.
Thank you.
We will certainly take up more case studies as you suggested.
Thank you, Deva sir. I once again thank Dr. Dhawan on behalf of all the participants. I once again thank all the participants also for sparing their time and joining us here in the live session. So see you all next month in the next session of Open House. Meanwhile, if you have any ideas about the topics for Open House, or if you want to make suggestions, you are always welcome. And feel free to ask any technical query. You can post it on our website or email them directly to us. So thank you so much once again. It was nice to see you all post the festive season. I hope you all had great time during this Diwali time. So take care, stay safe, and see you all next month. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank